Good afternoon. I apologize for being late. The Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senator Brooks, Senator Buck, Senator Canizaro,
Here.
Senator Dennis, Senator Donate, Senator Dondero Loop, Senator Gokachia, Senator Hammond, Senator Hansen, Senator Hardy, Senator Harris, Senator Kiekeffer, Senator Lang, Senator Neal, Senator Orenthal, Senator Pickard, Senator Ratty, Senator Scheibel, Senator Sievers-Gansert, Senator Settlemeyer, and Senator Spearman.
Thank you. Let the record reflect there are 21 senators present. Please rise for the prayer and invocation by Pastor Louis Locke of Carson City Foursquare Church.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day and for your many blessings in our lives. May we be reminded of the words of the prophet Micah found in the Holy Scriptures. He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Lord, please bless the men and women of this Senate, their families, and staff. In the name of our Lord Jesus, amen.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Order of business number 3, reading and approval of the journal. By previous order of the Senate, the reading of the journal is dispensed with, and the President and Secretary are authorized to make the necessary corrections and additions. Order of business number 4, reports of committee.
Madam President, Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 12, 26, 41, 53, has had the same under consideration, begs to report the same back with recommendation to pass, signed Senator Dallas Harris, Chair. Madam President, Committee on Health and Human Services, to which were referred Senate Bills numbers 61, 96, has had the same under consideration, begs leave to report the same back with recommendation amended to pass as amended, signed Senator Julia Ratty, Chair. Madam President, your Committee on Revenue and Economic Development, to which was referred Senate Bill number 284, has had the same under consideration, begs leave to report the same back with recommendation amended to pass as amended, signed Senator Dina Neal, Chair. End of reports.
Thank you. Order business number 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, April 14, 2021. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body the Assembly on this day passed Assembly Bills numbers 19, 412. Also, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body the Assembly on this day passed as amended Assembly Bills numbers 4, 6, 18, 31, 34. Assembly Joint Resolution number 2, signed Carol I. Elisella, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Thank you. Order business number 9, motions, resolutions, and notices. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to Senate Standard Rule number 134-1A, I authorize Senator Canizaro to use remote technology systems to attend, participate, vote, and take any other action in the proceedings of the Senate.
Thank you. Order business 9C, Senator Spearman. Yeah, let's take a brief recess. Okay. All right, the Senate will come to order. We're on agenda number 1, order of business number 9, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Senate concurrent resolution number 5, introduced by Senator Spearman, urges certain actions to address the public health crisis in Nevada. End of resolution.
Thank you, Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution 5.
I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, are there any amendments to the resolution as a whole?
There are none.
Okay.
End of resolution.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. You have heard the motion. Are there any remarks, Senator Spearman?
Senate Concurrent Resolution 5 declares that the systemic racism and structures of racial discrimination constitute a public health crisis magnified by the disproportionately high impact of COVID-19 on communities of color. The resolution also urges support for local, state, regional, and federal initiatives to understand, address, and dismantle systemic racism and its impact on economic development, public safety, and the delivery of human and social services. Requests that federal funding be distributed equitably based on the percentage of Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color to address issues that disproportionately affect these communities in direct proportion to their disadvantages by individual racial category, and affirms a commitment to incorporate issues related to systemic racism and structures of racial discrimination into the regular business of the legislature. The effective date of the resolution is upon adoption.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Doniate.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to commend my colleague from Senate District 1 for bringing this forward. Let me be clear, systemic racism is a public health crisis. SCR 5 reestablishes an observation that we have known for many years, and that lies with the negative implications that have resulted in society through the presence of racism, xenophobia, and discrimination. COVID-19 has magnified the disparities that affect marginalized communities and the injustice that thrives amongst Nevada families that have been ignored for far too long, and we need to do everything we can to limit the progression of disease, and that means bringing to light the barriers that have existed for centuries here in our governmental institutions. And simply to note, to eliminate systems of oppression, we need to prioritize efforts and policies that will reduce racial hierarchies, most of them established through colonization, and that means standing up against the vilification of others and solving barriers that stand in the way for access to care. So SCR 5 clarifies that Nevada stands together to defeat racism in the public health sector, and I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Doniate. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I am going to vote against this. In fact, I wish I could go back and change my vote on the one that we voted on, I think it was in the special session, where we're claiming that the healthcare system of the state of Nevada and apparently across the nation is systemically racist. I think that's absurd on its face. I know my son is a doctor. My mom was a nurse who's close friends with Bernice Martin Matthews. And this whole concept that this is all some sort of systemic racism in the healthcare industry is totally nonsense. They've gone out of their way for decades to try to help everybody, irrespective of race, creed, or color. And this is an insult to all the people that work in our healthcare industry to essentially say that they're all a bunch of racists, and then come up with these crazy statistics which seem to point out that our healthcare system in Nevada has been, for apparently forever, been discriminating against everybody. Since I actually have watched the people that are in there, know a bunch of them, 3 of my 4 daughters are nurses, and one of my daughter-in-laws are a nurse, this is an insult to that entire industry. So I'm tired of this constant, everything from the HOAs to the food distribution system is somehow inherently biased and racist. Don't buy it, and I'm voting no. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. So I want to make sure that everyone is clear on Senate concurrent resolution. Does not say that it's racist. The system is racist, but it does say that there's structural racism. And I too have family in the healthcare system and friends in the healthcare system, so I would not dare denigrate the work that they do. And I applaud the efforts of healthcare systems all across the world who have helped us get through most of the pandemic. We still have a ways to go. But I think that it's undeniable when you look at one of the doctors in Indiana, a doctor, MD, doctor. Oh, did I say she was a doctor? Yeah, she's a doctor. And went into a hospital, and she knew exactly what was wrong. She had COVID. And the medical staff there, primarily the doctor, the attending physician, didn't listen to her. And this doctor, who had a medical degree, died because they did not listen to her. I could go on and on and on, but we don't have that many days left in the session. But it didn't say that it is racist. It says that it is structural racism. And I know that may be difficult for some who have not experienced the cold, hard reality of racism to be able to see that, and that's okay. We all learn and we all grow. I was not born with privilege, and therefore I have lived with structural racism all of my life. And so that's why Senate Concurrent Resolution 5 is necessary. Oh, and by the way, the director of the CDC last week said the very same thing. Racism is a public health crisis. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President. If I could stand, I would. I think individually we have relationships with people who come from different backgrounds, and we, for lack of a better word, pride ourselves on the reality that we like them, we are friends, we enjoy their company, we do things with them. And so it's difficult sometimes to extrapolate our individual experiences to the grand society. And I remember Senator Washington, who served in this body, talking to us in a private conversation about giving a lecture to her children about, when you go out, this is the way you comport yourself in order to stay out of trouble. And for me, it was an insight to realize that there are people who do suffer, do not understand why somebody looks at them differently. And I go back to the reality of demographic changes, where you live, where you're from, what your job is. And I think if I could say something that is demographism as well as racism, they're inexorably linked to the process that we deal with one another. And individually, I think we can feel good about how we feel about one another. Institutionally, I think we would not be able to see clearly that some people don't see people as we do. And I would be supportive of the resolution to the point where when we talk about COVID, we know that some people were at higher risk than others. And one of the things I regret is that we didn't say those people who are at higher risk should be vaccinated first. I think we missed an opportunity. And I think that when we start looking at ourselves and looking at other people, we have to look at other people through their eyes instead of our eyes. And if it's perceived by someone else, that is their reality. And I hope that I would be sensitive enough to see life through other people's eyes and be able to appreciate where they're at and where they're coming from and treat them as I would of a one blood, one person is as precious in the eyes of my Heavenly Father as anyone else, and I hope that I can portray that, and I hope that I can learn how to do that in a way that will lift everyone and be able to have everyone see themselves in the mirror of life as one eternal Father in heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hardy. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution adopted, order transmitted to the Assembly.
Assembly Joint Resolution Number 2, introduced by Assembly Committee on Natural Resources, recognizes the health of forests, rangelands, and soils are inextricably linked to the quantity and quality of water. End of resolution.
Thank you, Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. I move to refer AJR 2 to the Committee on Natural Resources.
Thank you. Senator Ratty has referred AJR 2 to the Committee on Natural Resources. Are there any objections to the referral? If not, so ordered.
Senator Orenshaw has approved the addition of Senator Spearman as the sponsor of Senate Bill 96.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. I would like to take SB 5 off of the general file for this legislative day and move it to the general file for the next legislative day.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Senators, if you could just handwrite order of business number 10 on this agenda, and we are going to be considering this next. You should have at your desks a list of assembly bills for introduction today.
All right, here we are. We are on first agenda, order of business 10, okay? Introduction, first reading and reference. Senator Ratty.
No, not quite yet.
No, not
Assembly Bill Number 4 by Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor revises provisions relating to Nevada Insurance Guarantee Association, refer to Commerce and Labor. Assembly Bill Number 6 by Assembly Natural Resources revises provisions governing application for a temporary change relating to appropriated water, refer to Natural Resources. Assembly Bill 18 by Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor revises provisions relating to contracts of insurance and casualty insurance, refer to Commerce and Labor. Assembly Bill 19 by Assembly Committee on Education revises provisions relating to educational subjects and standards, refer to Education. Assembly Bill 31 by Assembly Committee on Natural Resources revises provisions governing the Nevada Petroleum Products Inspection Act, referred to Natural Resources. Assembly Bill 34 by Assembly Committee on Natural Resources revises provisions governing the control of pests, noxious weeds, and pesticides, referred to Natural Resources. Assembly Bill 412 by Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure revises provisions governing motor vehicles, referred to Growth and Infrastructure. End of Assembly Bills.
Thank you, Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. I move to refer all of the Assembly bills as listed to the committees as listed.
Thank you. Senator Rowdy has referred Senate Bills 4, 6, 18, 19, 31, 34, and 412 as listed at your desk to the committees as listed at your desk. Are there any objections to the referral? If not, so ordered.
And that concludes order business number 10.
Order business number 12, second reading.
Senate Bill number 107, introduced by Senator Orange, makes various changes relating to statute of limitations for certain causes of action. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Let's take a short recess. Thank you, sorry. All right, are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 100, proposed by Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you, Senator Scheibel.
Sorry. I move to dispense with the reading of amendment number 100.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
And I move for the adoption of amendment 100 to Senate Bill 107.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Scheibel.
Amendment 100 provides for a 2-year statute of limitation to commence an action for wrongful termination. The statute of limitation is tolled during consideration of any pending related state or federal administrative charge on the matter and begins 93 days after the exhaustion of any such claim if that exhaustion occurs after 2 years from the date of the claim accrues.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any other amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 107, order reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
That concludes order business. No. Number 16, introduced by Committee on Health, Senate Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services, revised the provisions relating to the insurance of copies of certificates and records of birth. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. AB 16, order to the general file.
And that concludes order business number 12.
Thank you. Order business 13, general file, third reading.
Senate Bill number 5 has been moved to the general file for the next legislative day. Senate Bill number 19, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, establishes provisions authorizing certain entities to obtain information relating to the records of criminal history of certain persons responsible for the safety and well-being of children, elderly persons, or persons with disabilities. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 3, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill, and this bill requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Senate Bill 19 establishes provisions in accordance with federal law that allow certain qualified entities to obtain information on the records of criminal history of employees, volunteers, applicants, and other covered individuals of that entity who would have access to children, the elderly, or the disabled. Such a qualified entity must create an account with the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History, provide any person subject to these requirements written notification of their rights, obtain a signed waiver prior to conducting a record screening. The person's fingerprints must be submitted to the Central Repository and forwarded to the Federal Bureau of Investigation as part of this process. Qualified entities must determine, after receiving information under these provisions, whether the person is fit to have access to the vulnerable persons listed earlier. The bill contains certain liability protections for the qualified entity and for the state of Nevada, its political subdivisions, agencies, and employees regarding this process, and authorizes the repository to audit any qualified entity that submits a request for screening for compliance with all applicable state and federal laws.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill number 19?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 19 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a 2/3 majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 66, introduced by Senate Committee on Education and Acts provisions relating to access.
Madam President, may we go to order business number 9?
Yes, of course. Order of business number 9. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Senate Bill 179 from its place on the Secretary's desk and place its appropriate place on general file for this legislative day.
Senate Bill 179. Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank
And
you.
that concludes order business number 9.
Order of Business 13, General File, third reading, 179.
Senate Bill number 66, introduced by Senate Committee on Education, enacts provisions relating to access to the Internet and telecommunications technology for pupils. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 5 and to Section 5 end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Dennis.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 66 requires the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology in the Office of the Governor to develop a statewide system of gathering data relating to residential internet service and telecommunications technology accessibility. The bill also requires the office to collaborate with various entities to ensure pupils have access to internet and technology. 2, recommends minimum standards for devices. 3, conducts a gap analysis regarding the lack of pupil connectivity. 4, develops a plan to address such gaps. And 5, reports these responsibilities to the Governor, the State Board of Education, and the Legislature. Furthermore, SB 66 requires school districts and the State Public Charter School Authority to report related information to the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology, and authorizes the Office and Nevada Department of Education to adopt any necessary regulations. The bill is effective on October 1st, 2021, and urge your support. This allows us to really see where the gaps are, and this past year has really helped us to see where these gaps are. And so we're just trying to figure out ways to make sure that we can provide, if we're going to use technology for education, we want to make sure that all kids have that opportunity, and this will help us to understand that. Urge support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Cannizzaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 66?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 66 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 71, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions governing unclaimed property. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 17, subsection 5, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Senate Bill 71 revises various portions of Nevada's Uniform Unclaimed Property Act. Among other things, the bill defines virtual currency to exclude game-related digital content such as digital tokens or points that cannot be used outside of a game or game platform or otherwise monetized. Allows the unclaimed property administrator to initiate and facilitate the payment or delivery of property to an owner without the owner filing a claim in certain circumstances upon review and confirmation of the identity of the apparent owner. Revises provisions concerning a property holder's domicile, shortens the timeline for a holder to deliver property to the administrator, and requires a person making a claim on behalf of an estate to prove that they are affiliated with that estate. Documents generated in connection with such a claim would be confidential. Requires the administrator of unclaimed property to make a good faith effort to notify persons who have a statutory duty with respect to unclaimed property that the administrator intends to examine pertinent records. Allows the administrator to require that records be furnished in certain formats, and authorizes the administrator to issue and enforce administrative subpoenas to obtain such records. Requires a property holder to maintain any records used to justify excluding certain information from a report required to be filed with the administrator, and increases from 10% to 20% the maximum percentage of the value of property that a firm hired to locate, deliver, recover, or assist in the recovery of unclaimed property may charge the property owner as a commission under certain circumstances.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Cannizzaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 71?
Yes.
Thank you. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 71 is 21 in favor, 0 against. Bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 95, introduced by Senator Orenshaw, revises provisions relating to business entities. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 38, end of Section 38, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Senate Bill 95 is an omnibus measure that revises various provisions governing Nevada business entities. The origins of Senate Bill 95 come from the State Bar of Nevada Business Law section. Among other things, the bill transfers from the clerk of the court to the party who serves the document responsibility for mailing certain documents to a company's management team, moves the definition of publicly traded corporation to a different section of statute to make it more generally applicable, allows a corporation to include a federal forum selection clause within its articles of incorporation or bylaws, clarifies a corporation's fiduciary duties, expands the definition of distribution regarding classes or series of shares, and revises provisions concerning the ability of a corporation to hold virtual meetings and who may attend those virtual meetings. The bill also revises provisions concerning the applicability of certain voting agreements and time limits placed on such agreements, as well as clarifying the voting requirements for certain types of business entities, expands a corporation's ability to indemnify managers in certain circumstances, clarifies that certificate of membership interest requirements for some associations do not apply to common interest communities, clarifies the terms distribution and in interest as it relates to limited liability companies and their members, revises provisions concerning the notification of stockholders concerning actions that create dissenters' rights, and clarifies provisions governing a stockholder's demand for payment of shares and requires a stockholder to file a statement of intent under certain circumstances.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to commend my colleague from Senate District 21 for his work, and particularly with Mr. Robert Kim from the Business Law section of the Nevada State Bar. They worked some pretty long hours to hone this, to resolve some discrepancies and some problems, so I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Further remarks. All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Cannizzaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 95?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 95 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 108, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, establishes provisions relating to juvenile justice. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 4, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 108 requires instruction relating to implicit bias and cultural competency be provided to any person who is employed in the juvenile justice system and who has routine contact with juveniles in their work, including employees of regional facilities for treatment and rehabilitation. The impact of trauma and adverse childhood experiences on decision-making and behavior must be included in the training. Regulations governing the implementation of such training must be developed by the Division of Child and Family Services of the Department of Health and Human Services, and responsibility for providing the training rests with an individual's employer. The Nevada Supreme Court is authorized to provide by rule for training for any magistrate, judge, master, or employee in the juvenile court system who routinely interacts with system-involved juveniles.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. While I understand that this is almost redundant, and because they're already doing that, I just have a real hard time after working for a decade with all the fine people in the juvenile justice system, including some of the judges. I just reject the whole theory that there's systemic racism there and that they all need to take re-education courses every 2 years in implicit bias theory. I think it's just an incredible insult to all the people that have worked so hard and have worked so hard to help out minority kids, in my opinion, almost disproportionately so, from numerous discussions I've had with them on these issues. And again, it's just, even though my vote is symbolic because they're already doing it, it's just wrong to constantly tell these people that have literally dedicated their lives to helping all children of all ethnic backgrounds to work their way through the criminal justice system, to in effect claim that even though they didn't realize it, they all have some systemic racism in them, and therefore they have to take re-education courses twice a year. So I'm absolutely a no on this. And for the criminal justice people out there, I just want to salute them for all the great work they have done for decades for all of the children of the state of Nevada. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 108?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 108 is 20 in favor, 1 against. The bill having reached a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 109, introduced by Senator Spearman, revises provisions relating to collection of certain information by governmental agencies. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
Are there none? Section 7, end of Section 7, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 109 requires a governmental agency that collects demographic information related to a person's race or ethnicity to also request, operative word there, request, not demand, request information related to a person's sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. The bill also provides, with limited exception, that such information is confidential, authorizes the agency to use such information only for certain purposes, provides that no person shall be required to provide information related to the person's sexual orientation and gender identity or expression, and requires a governmental agency to submit to the Director of the Legislative Council Bureau an annual report regarding information received regarding sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. Agencies without the necessary funding and resources to begin implementing the collection of sexual orientation and gender identity or expression data are not required to collect such data until January 1, 2024. Agencies that have not implemented collection of the data on or before January 1, 2022 must submit a progress report by December 31, 2022, and annually thereafter, setting forth the reasons for not implementing the data collection and the actions taken by the agency toward the data collection. The bill is effective on October 1, 2021. And Madam President, all this bill does is collect data so that the policy decisions that are being made take into consideration the number of LGBTQ people that are here in the state of Nevada, who, by the way, are also taxpayers and part of the group that pays our salary. So we want to make sure that all of our decisions reflect the diversity of the state, and we don't want to leave anybody out. That's all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Further remarks. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just amazed by how much we've changed in Nevada, in that there was a time when the idea of asking about somebody's sexuality or about their race was absolutely forbidden. That was none of our business. People have an inherent right to privacy on certain things. And while I realize this bill is supposedly going to be voluntary, the reality is that as any of this data is collected, it almost has to have some level of compliance to be of any value whatsoever. This is incredibly invasive. It's none of our business to be asking people what their sexual preferences are. So the idea that we're going to basically create this database based around highly invasive questions of people's inherent right to complete privacy, it's none of your business what other people do sexually. And so I'm just sort of amazed at this transition we've had to where now we're going to want the government to ask about people's race and ethnicity and even very, very personal things regarding their sexuality. So I would urge my colleagues to recognize that all Nevadans have an inherent right of privacy, and it's none of the government's business to be asking these types of questions, and certainly none to be collecting data on, when in fact so many people will be highly offended to be even asked these types of things, therefore skewing the data so that it has absolutely zero value in the real world. So I would urge my colleagues to vote for privacy and to keep the government out of our bedrooms and out of our race backgrounds and so forth, and vote no on Senate Bill 109. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Further remarks. All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 109?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 109 is 14 in favor, 7 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 156, introduced by Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, revises provisions relating to crisis stabilization centers. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 5 of this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill, and this bill requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. Senate Bill 156 expands the authority of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services to issue an endorsement to a crisis stabilization center, not just to psychiatric hospitals, but to any licensed hospital that meets certain requirements. This bill also expands the list of organizations by which a hospital may be accredited to qualify for renewal of an endorsement, and it exempts rural hospitals from the accreditation requirement. It also expands the existing requirement that DHHS take any action necessary to ensure that these crisis stabilization centers provided at a psychiatric hospital with a crisis stabilization center endorsement are reimbursable under Medicaid, and to include such services provided at any hospital with an endorsement. And finally, it makes some conforming changes to existing law requiring health insurance maintenance organizations or managed care organizations that provide services through Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program to negotiate in good faith to include these stabilization centers with these endorsements in their provider network. I am very excited about this bill. This is one of the key components that we need to re-envision our behavioral health response, our response to an individual who is experiencing a behavioral health crisis. This is a tool that we very much need in our toolkit to make sure that all of the weight of responding to somebody who's experiencing a behavioral health crisis doesn't fall on our EMS system, our law enforcement, our firefighters, our ambulance teams, but rather that we have behavioral health professionals and behavioral health tools to meet somebody who's in crisis. So I believe that this bill will be good for literally everyone, and I'm very excited and hope that you will support it.
Thank you, Senator Ratty. Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. I urge support of Senate Bill 156. I agree with my colleague from Sparks, and I think we need to be able to provide greater access. And the funding mechanism in this for Medicaid will help that. And also the availability throughout the state will help. And I also want to thank those who've been on the front lines for so long that they're finally getting more support. So again, I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Severs-Gansert. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. I also want to express my very, very strong support for SB 156. I unfortunately encounter a lot of people who will be affected by this bill in the criminal justice system, but I am heartened to see that throughout that process there are dozens, even thousands of people who would rather utilize a mental health response to those crises. And as my colleague said, this will help literally everybody. It will take away the need, it will allow first responders to have additional tools in their tool belt, as we like to say in the legislature. It will give them options. We'll have ways to keep people safe who are experiencing a mental health crisis, and hopefully we will see fewer of them in our jails and courtrooms and more of them getting the treatment that they need.
Thank you, Senator Scheibel. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. I strongly support this, this legislation as well. Although not said explicitly, I know that this will also help veterans who have not received the kind of medical attention for their mental health that they should have. And until we get to that place where we are properly funding Veterans Administration, this is one of the ways that we can make sure that our veterans get the help that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 156?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 156 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a two-thirds majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 247, introduced by Senator John Darrell Loop, revises provisions relating to apprenticeships. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 2, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 247 revises existing requirements regarding registered apprenticeship programs to conform to federal laws and regulations. The bill prohibits the State Apprenticeship Council from approving a program proposed for a skilled trade when there is already a program approved for the skilled trade, unless the new program requires the same hours and quality skills as all existing programs. Finally, the bill prescribes elements the council is required to consider when determining whether to approve or reject such a program. This bill is effective October 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 247?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 247 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 344, introduced by Senator Orenshaw, enacts provisions relating to the importation, possession, sale, transfer, and breeding of dangerous wild animals. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 26, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Senate Bill 344 makes it unlawful for a person, unless he or she meets one of several exemptions, to import, possess, sell, transfer, or breed a dangerous wild animal, or allow any member of the public to come in direct contact with a dangerous wild animal. Among the exemptions enumerated in the bill are certain film and television productions, visual media productions, and resort hotels. Veterinarians and certain law enforcement personnel under the bill are authorized to deal with dangerous wild animals in carrying out their duties. Additionally, a person who possessed a dangerous wild animal before July 1st of this year is allowed to keep that animal if the person meets certain requirements under the bill, including registering with the sheriff or the Metropolitan Police Department as applicable, and the local animal control authority, with jurisdiction over the premises where the dangerous wild animal is located within 2 months after July 1st, 2021, and then annually thereafter. A law enforcement officer or an animal control agent may seize a dangerous wild animal if the agent believes the owner of the animal has violated certain provisions of the law. A person or entity given temporary custody of a dangerous wild animal may petition a court to gain compensation from the person from whom the animal was seized. Lastly, this bill provides that a violation of the provisions regarding the breeding, importation, possession, sale, or transfer of dangerous wild animals is punishable as a misdemeanor. This bill provides that its provisions must not be construed as prohibiting a county or city from adopting or enforcing any rule of law that places additional restrictions or requirements on the breeding, importation, possession, sale, or transfer of a dangerous wild animal. And President, with your permission, I want to thank the Chair of the Natural Resources Committee for working so hard on this legislation to try and address many of the concerns that were brought forth in this legislation. I think if you look at the states around us, Nevada really is an outlier in terms of the laws we have regarding these animals. And unless people have certain very special training, special skills, it is very dangerous for just ordinary people to try to own, breed, possess these animals. I urge its passage.
Thank you, Senator Orenshaw. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Canizaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 344?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 344 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 371, introduced by Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, revises provisions relating to motor vehicles. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill as a whole?
There are none. Section 6, end of Section 6, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 371 makes 3 changes to the vehicle miles traveled pilot study currently being conducted by the Department of Motor Vehicles. The changes: 1, remove recreational vehicles from the list of vehicles for which odometer readings must be submitted to the DMV. 2, direct the DMV to exclude odometer readings from the vehicle information reports provided to insurer or self-insurer. And finally, number 3, authorize the DMV to adopt regulations providing for an administrative fine for failure to report an odometer reading in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hammond. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll.
Senator Cannizzaro, do you vote yes or no on Senate Bill 371?
Yes.
All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 371 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order to the Assembly.
And that concludes order of business number 13 on the first agenda.
Order of business 16, remarks from the floor. How you guys doing? Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam. Today, I have the honor to talk with you about my favorite sport and a player we celebrate every April 15th, a civil rights leader and the first African American to play baseball, Jackie Robinson. Before there was Rosa Parks, there was Jackie Robinson. On July 6, 1944, Robinson was 25 years old and an Army lieutenant. He boarded a bus in Texas, a military bus, where he sat down in a middle seat next to a light-skinned woman who happened to be the wife of an African-American officer. The bus driver yelled at him to go to the back of the bus. He refused. He was later arrested. But by November of that year, he was honorably discharged from the Army. Describing the ordeal, he later wrote, "It was a small victory, for I had learned that I was in 2 wars, one against a foreign enemy and the other against prejudice at home." Had Robinson lost his case and been dishonorably discharged, the Brooklyn Dodgers general manager, Rickey, would not have picked him to break a Major League Baseball's color line. And America would have been deprived of one of the greatest pioneers for racial justice. Indeed, whenever someone is identified as the first person to break the barrier, that individual is typically called Jackie Robinson. The grandson of a slave, the son of a sharecropper, he was 14 months old in 1920 when his mother moved their 5 children from Georgia to Pasadena, California. He was young, he was articulate, he was well educated. And although Pasadena was very segregated, he formed friendships with white neighbors and classmates in high school and soon attended college at UCLA. He first played in the Negro Leagues and spent his major league career 1947 to 1956 with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was chosen Rookie of the Year in 1947, the most valuable player in 1941, an outstanding runner with a .311 lifetime batting average. He led the Dodgers to 6 pennants and was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1962. But off the field, he was outspoken. In speeches and interviews, he was against racial justice. He viewed his sports celebrity as a platform for which to challenge American racism. His success in the baseball diamond was a symbol of the promise of a racially integrated society. Martin Luther King once said to Jackie that he would never know what he did to make it possible for Martin Luther King to do his job. In the 16 years he lived after his retirement, he pushed baseball to hire blacks as managers and executives. He refused to participate in the old-timers game in 1969, and because he wanted them to break the barriers and hire more managers and front office people that were African American. At his final public appearance, throwing the ceremonial first pitch before Game 2 of the 1972 World Series, shortly before he died, he accepted a plaque honoring the 25th anniversary of his MLB debut. And he said, "I'm going to be tremendously more pleased and more proud when I look at that third base coaching line. one day and see a black face managing in baseball. The week after he passed away, MLB hired its first black manager, Frank Robinson, for the Cleveland Indians. My favorite player, Ken Griffey Jr., was the first player to come up with the idea of wearing number 42, Jackie Robinson's number. He at that time wore number 24 and asked the commissioner to wear the retired number 42, to which the commissioner granted the request, but then he said he would like us to extend the offer to anyone who wanted to wear number 42 on April 15th in 1920, April 15th. April 15th is dedicated as a day to honor him because it was opening day in the 1947, the day Robinson would make his debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers. In the present day, more than 100 Major League Baseball players pledged their game day salaries today, April 15th, to the Players Alliance Breaking Barriers campaign, where those funds will be put toward Players Alliance, the Jackie Robinson Scholarship Fund, set to debut to recipients this fall. I leave you with one quote from Jackie Robinson that has endured the test of time and encapsulates what he stood for in a nutshell. This is not an America. In this country, free until every one of us is free. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lang. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. I echo the sentiments from my colleague from Las Vegas. We both share a love for this particular sport, and matter of fact, a lot of people always ask me, why do you love baseball so much? And I don't think I've ever sat down to articulate or formulate in my own mind why I love it so much. But I just love the fact that I can sit in a ballpark for 3 or 4 hours, and you can smell the grass, the dirt, the stadium food. You can hear the sounds of baseball. And it's tremendous. I love having baseball in the background when I'm grading papers or when I'm, doing something around the house. I love the, I love the game within the game. The pitcher throwing an inside breaking ball so that he can set up a high fastball 2 pitches later to get out a batter. I love the contributions of baseball to some of the great lines of our movies and cinema. One of my favorite movies, Daniel Stern plays Phil in City Slickers, and I remember there's a line in there particularly that addresses baseball, where he said, when I was 18 and my dad and I couldn't communicate about anything at all, we could still talk about baseball. Sometimes totally unexpected lines come from things like Bull Durham, where the Bat Boy was talking to the star of the show, Kevin Costner, and Crash Davis, and he said, Crash, get a hit. And Crash Davis looked down at him and said, shut up. Love that line for some reason. It's totally unexpected, but that's what baseball does. I love Brad Pitt in his portrayal of Billy Bean in Moneyball, where he states several times, it's hard not to be romantic about baseball. In my own life, I wax romantic about baseball often. I think about when I was 11 or 12 and listening in the corner of my room on a transistor radio, listening to the 1977-78 World Series, because my stepfather wouldn't let me watch it on the TV. I memorized the players. I knew that the home runs. By the way, that was the World Series where Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs on 3 pitches. I remember walking hand in hand with my son on my right, my dad on my left for the first time into Old Yankee Stadium and seeing the outfield grass. I remember holding my daughter in a 2007 baseball playoff game where Derek Jeter hit, I think it was a single, and we were yelling and screaming, and my then 2.5-year-old daughter actually said her first complete full sentence, subject and a verb, by the way, "Let's go Yankees." The full sentence. On this day in 1947, as my colleague pointed out, Jackie Robinson made his debut. And on this day, across America, in every baseball park that you walk into, I don't care if you're playing for the San Diego Padres, the Chicago Cubs, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Seattle Mariners, even Boston, even the New York Yankees, every one of those ball players will be wearing number 42. it's hard to believe what Jackie Robinson had to go to. I've read books, I've seen videos, I've watched the movies. We all see the outcome of what he was able to endure. And it wasn't him alone. It was he and his beautiful wife, Rachel, who had to go through this. The insults, the harassment, everything that went along with breaking the racial barrier and making this move in baseball. This is why I love baseball. They decided it was time to make that change, and Jackie Robinson was the right person at the right time. We'll never know all the little nuances that he had to endure. I mean, can you imagine somebody making a movie of your life? I mean, we all know the outcome, but we don't know what you had to go through to become who you are today. Same thing for Jackie Robinson, and yet he came out, and he was able to move not only baseball, but America forward, and getting past that point, and still, as was pointed out, had to do things throughout his life to continue to move the goals, continue to move the mark forward. So I won't belabor this anymore. I'll just say that I love Jackie Robinson. I love that man. I love what he had. I love his intensity, and I love what he was able to accomplish. But I'll end with one of my other favorite quotes from a movie. It happens to come from James Earl Jones in his portrayal of Terrence Mann in the movie Field of Dreams, as he's talking to Ray Kinsella, who is played by Kevin Costner. I'll just read this so everybody remembers what baseball does. And, well, I'll just say this. He was saying, Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn into your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person, and they'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have and peace they lack. And they'll walk off to the bleachers and sit in their short sleeves on a perfect afternoon and find they had reserved seats somewhere along the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheer their heroes, and they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they've dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick they'll have to brush them away from their faces. People will come, Ray. The one constant throughout all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again, but baseball has marked the time. This field, this game is part of our past, Ray. It reminds us all of all that once was good and that could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. Jackie Robinson is part of that build and rebuild. His memory and his legacy will live on. And today, as we look at or watch a baseball game and we see number 42 worn by every single player, I hope that we will remember everything that that man contributed and all that he went through. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hammond. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. Two of my heroes growing up were Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, who played for the San Francisco Giants. When I was a little kid, I got to go. My mom actually took me there. So swing that back down to reality. My mom was that nurse I was talking about earlier. And there was never anything like, wow, you can't like those two because they're black. Quite the opposite. They were incredibly talented athletes. And so bring it back to politics, unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I reject the whole concept that we voted on SCR 5 today. It's an insult to people like my mom and all the people in the healthcare system. So I want to make sure the record reflects that my vote was no on that. And I also I can't go back and change it, but during the special session, we had SCR 1, and it was unanimous. I voted for it, but I want the record to reflect now that I wish I could have that vote back because, again, it was an insult to people like my mom, who was an incredibly good person to all people in the healthcare system. And then last but not least, I think we should give a big shout out once again to Operation Warp Speed and the fact that we have a vaccine created in a miraculously short period of time that benefits every single race, creed, and color. And that came through a man that's been viciously attacked as being a racist from the day he was elected to the day he left, our own former president, Donald Trump. So for me, big shout out for Donald Trump for helping to save who knows how many lives with Operation Warp Speed, including every race, creed, and color in the United States and around the world. So just want to make sure those two things are on the record. And if anybody talks about the SCR1 from the special session, don't say it was unanimous anymore. At least there was one guy that after the fact wished he had changed his vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Further remarks? All right, I have to take a point of privilege because you mentioned the San Francisco Giants. My grandfather, Joe Saltero, was one of the men who chose Willie Mays. Anyway, baseball. All right, so I think we must be ready now. Let's move to the second agenda. What do you say, guys? Okay. Order business number 4. We're on the second agenda. Order business number 4, reports of committee.
Madam President, your Committee on Government Affairs, to which were referred Senate Bills numbers 1257, 110, 360, has the same under consideration. Basic leave to report the same back to the recommendation amended to pass as amended. Signed, Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, Chair. Madam President, your Committee on Judiciary, to which were referred Senate Bills number 6, 359, has had the same under consideration. Begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amended to pass as amended. Signed, Senator Melanie Scheibel, Chair. End of reports.
Thank you. Order business 12, second reading.
Senate Bill number 61, introduced by Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, revises provisions governing the program for operation of vending facilities by licensees who are blind. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do act as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 176, proposed by the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
President, I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. I move to adopt Amendment 176 to Senate Bill 61.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Ratty.
Amendment 176 to Senate Bill 61 revises certain timelines and clarifies certain processes, clarifies that a final decision by a hearing officer may be appealed to the district court, revises the definition of public building or property to exclude an airport authority or Department of Aviation operated by a political subdivision of the state, and any building, land, or real property that is leased to a private entity or operated under an operating agreement for the purposes of live entertainment, and provides that vending facilities may be operated on the property of an airport authority or Department of Aviation if such entities choose to participate in the program.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 61, ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 96, introduced by Senator Orenshaw, etc., and Assemblywoman Carlton, makes various changes relating to services provided to persons with autism spectrum disorders. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 177, proposed by the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Ratty.
Thank you. I move to adopt Amendment 177 to Senate Bill 96.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Ratty.
So Amendment 177 to Senate Bill 96 deletes the bill as introduced and instead makes various changes related to services for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Specifically, it requires the Department of Health and Human Services to annually establish Medicaid fee-for-service reimbursement rates comparable to rates paid in other states for behavioral analysts, assistant behavioral analysts, and registered behavioral technicians. The department must also establish reasonable limits on the number of hours such providers can bill for services provided to Medicaid recipients in a 24-hour period. In addition, the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy of DHHS must provide training to such providers concerning these limits and annually report to the legislature certain information. Finally, the amendment requires the Autism Treatment Assistance Program within the Aging and Disability Services Division of DHHS to post certain information online to help people obtain a diagnosis and services related to autism spectrum disorders, and when there is a wait list for ATAP services, to use a risk assessment tool to assess and identify those on the wait list who have higher needs. I would note for the record that many of these recommendations came out of the legislative audit and were then included in this bill.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 96 is ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 284, introduced by Senator Ratty, revises provisions relating to transferable tax credits for affordable housing. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 232, proposed by Senate Committee on Revenue and Economic Development.
Thank you. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Neal.
I move to adopt Amendment 232 to Senate Bill 284.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Neal.
Amendment 232 to Senate Bill 284 revises the bill to specify that an entity to which a project sponsor transfers any transferable tax credits may transfer those transferable tax credits to one or more of its subsidiaries or affiliates, rather than being able to transfer the tax credits to just one of its subsidiaries or affiliates.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 284 is ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
And that concludes order of business number 12.
Senator Brooks.
Order of Business 9, please.
All right, order of business 9, Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we re-refer Senate Bill 96 to Senate Finance.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And that concludes order of business number 9 and business of the desk on the second agenda.
All right, order of business 16. Remarks from the floor. Guys, you want to move to the next space? All right. Order of business 8. Third agenda.
Notice of exemption, April 15, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standard Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Senate Bill number 110. Signed, Wayne Thurley, Fiscal Analysis Division. End of notices.
Thank you. Order of business 12, second reading.
Senate Bill number 6, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions governing orders for protection against high-risk behavior. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 348, proposed by Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 348.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. I move to adopt Amendment 348 to Senate Bill 6.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. Amendment 348 to Senate Bill 6 does the following. Number 1, it changes temporary in the bill to emergency, which replaces ex parte in statute for the purposes of this bill. 2, it retains the ability of a family or household member to file an application for protective order, but requires a showing of imminent risk to the person or others. 3, removes the distinction between an ex parte order and an extended order, and instead requires a single application for an order for high-risk protection. 4, adds to existing requirements for an application a requirement to include any supplemental documentation or information. And 5, establishes procedures for a hearing on an application, including that a hearing must be held within 1 judicial day of the application filing. A court may issue an emergency or extended order, schedule a future hearing, or dismiss the application. A court may hold a telephonic hearing on an application filed by a law enforcement officer, and a court is prohibited from using an extended order at a telephonic hearing. The amendment states that if an emergency order is issued, it expires no longer than 7 days after the filing of the application. A court must hold a hearing during this time period to determine whether to issue an extended order unless the emergency order is dissolved prior to the deadline. And a court may extend an emergency period for 7 days to effectuate service of an order or for good cause shown. The amendment further states that if a court schedules a future hearing, it must be held within 7 days of the application filing, and a court may issue an extended order under certain circumstances. Finally, the amendment states that if an extended order is issued at a hearing, it expires not later than 1 year after issuance.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 6, ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 12, introduced by Senate Committee on Government Affairs, requires certain notices before termination of a restriction relating to the affordability of certain housing. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 99, proposed by Senate Committee on Government Affairs.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to adopt Amendment 99 to Senate Bill 12.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you. Amendment 99 makes the following changes to Senate Bill 12. Provides that an owner of housing that will voluntarily maintain affordability restrictions with expiration of the restrictions shall provide written notice to the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry not less than 12 months before the expiration, and thereafter submit an annual report to the division for as long as the affordability restrictions are voluntarily maintained, and provides the provisions of the bill apply to every owner of housing that is subject to an affordability restriction on or after October 1st, 2021, and every owner of housing who on October 1st, 2021 has voluntarily maintained an affordability restriction after expiration of the restriction.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 12, order reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 57, introduced by Senate Committee on Government Affairs, revises provisions governing the imposition of certain special assessments by a Board of County Commissioners. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 384, proposed by Senate Committee on Government Affairs.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you. I move to adopt Amendment 384 to Senate Bill 57.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendment 384 makes the following changes to Senate Bill 57. Adds or a governing body of a city to provide that the bill revises provisions governing the imposition of special assessments by a Board of County Commissioners or a governing body of a city, and retains the requirement that the amount of civil penalties must be more than $5,000 for a special assessment to be imposed.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 57, order reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 110, introduced by Senator Spearman, revises provisions relating to businesses engaged in the development of emerging technologies. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 246, proposed by the Senate Committee on Government Affairs.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
I move to adopt Amendment 246 to Senate Bill 110.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendment 246 makes the following changes to Senate Bill 110. Revises membership of the Emerging Technologies Task Force to include one member who is a representative of the Nevada System of Higher Education, one member who is a teacher at a Title I school in a large school district, one member who is a representative of K-12 education, and one member who has experience as a consumer advocate. Requires that the appointing authorities for the task force must ensure certain inclusion and diversity.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 110, order reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 359, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, provides that certain prohibited acts are also punishable as arson under certain circumstances. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 358, proposed by Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 358.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
I move to adopt Amendment 358 to Senate Bill 359.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. The amendment clarifies that the added penalty of arson set forth in the bill is a Category C felony.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 359, order reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill number 360, introduced by Senate Committee on Government Affairs, revises provisions relating to public employment. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 251, proposed by Senate Committee on Government Affairs.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrellou.
I move to adopt Amendment 251 to Senate Bill 360.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Don Darrellou.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendment 251 makes the following changes to Senate Bill 360. Delete Section 1 to remove any changes to the Public Employees Retirement Board, and revises Section 2 to provide that the governor must make appointments to the Board of the Public Employees Benefits Program as follows. 2, Nevada System of Higher Education professional employee members must be selected from a list of 5 nominees submitted by the professional organization representing the largest number of professional employees of NCHE. 2 persons retired from public employment must be selected from a list of 5 nominees submitted by the professional organization and representing the largest number of retired state employees. And 2 persons who are classified employees must be selected from a list of 10 nominees submitted by a labor organization representing the largest number of classified state employees in the program.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 360 is ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
And that concludes order of business number 12.
Order of business. Thank you. Senator Brooks.
Order of business 9, please.
Order of business 9.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we re-refer Senate Bill 110 to Finance.
Thank you. All those, you have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And that concludes order of business number 9.
Thank you. Order of business 13, general file, third reading.
Senate Bill number 179, introduced by Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor, revises provisions relating to sign language interpreting and real-time captioning of the people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 427 proposed by Senator Hardy.
Thank you. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Hardy.
I move to adopt Amendment 427 to Senate Bill 179.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Hardy.
Amendment 227 makes 2 changes to Senate
four-
Bill 179.
Amendment 427, Senator Hardy, is it?
I move that we adopt the amendment.
Yeah, is it Amendment 427?
427
Yeah,
to
okay, thank
Senate
you.
Bill 179.
Thank you. Yeah.
Amendment 427 makes 2 changes to Senate Bill 179, clarifies the definition of, quote, primary or secondary educational setting, unquote, to include all communication within a school setting, and secondly, clarifies the definition of interpreter to include the practice of sign language interpreting.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 179 is ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
And that concludes order of business number 13 and business of the desk for this legislative day.
All right then, order of business 16, remarks from the floor. Senator Canizaro then? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Canizaro, Senator Spearman?
1 minute recess.
1 minute recess, please. All right, we're back in session. We're on the third agenda order, Business 16, remarks from the floor. I don't see any. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Just as a reminder for everyone in the body, because this passage deadline is Tuesday, we may be in floor session throughout the day tomorrow in order to accommodate amendments to Senate bills and resolutions. So please be prepared for what is likely to be multiple floor sessions and a longer day. And with that, Madam President, I move that the Senate stand in adjournment until the hour of 11 a.m. on Friday, April 16th, 2021.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. See you tomorrow at 11, guys.